agenda are the street signs, the appropriate money for us to get the rest of the street signs within the city. It's taking us a little bit longer, so we're going with a different company, and we have to make sure the colors match, especially the brown color, which is hard to match sometimes, so we're going through that. So as soon as we get that taken care of, we will be ordering the rest of the signs and hopefully get them up this year.
How many have we received already?
We haven't got it. We haven't received them.
Oh,
Same time
okay.
that you ride.
Okay.
Just ordering them all at the same time. But we're making sure that the brown, they have to send us a sample. I think Jason sent a sample, make sure that the colors match.
I will sign yours.
We don't want it to be a
The other
different
one's
color
J.
brown.
Morrow.
Hang on a minute, I can't hear.
Hey, yeah.
Alright.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say about that.
Is there not like an ODOT standard color code that they have for brown?
I don't think so, because I don't think any signs are brown for ODOT. I know. Maybe
State park
state park
signs.
but I don't know. But we just have to make sure they match where we're going with a different company. So hopefully we can get them quicker turnaround.
Okay. Okay. Maybe do you think by next
One's
month?
J, one's me.
I hope.
Okay.
Well, we got the extra help, I hope.
Well, yeah. I mean, and now's when the ground is soft.
Yeah.
Putting them in.
Yeah. We know it's soft, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's J. Morrow.
Number 2, the mast arm on 79. If you remember the mast arm at Hopewell and Parkview and 79, it was moving really bad. It's been hit 3 or 4 times by semi trucks, and we have decided to move it. You appropriated $15,000 to do that. We had to meet with Jobs again to make sure how far we're going to move that mast arm. We're going to move it to the south, further from the intersection, and then but we have to make sure we miss water lines. John was there, and from the water department said he wanted to at least be 10 feet from a water line there, because there's a water line that runs diagonal right by that mast arm.
Okay.
I think it's within 6 or 7 feet now. We'd like to have it a little bit further away. And then there's a storm sewer that we could be closer to that. It doesn't matter so much on that, but the water. So we're trying to figure out exactly where we're going to put that. That means we have to pour a new base, move the pole. We're getting a new pole. We'll keep the mast arm, and then we have to have it rewired.
Bob, are you gonna put some kind of a concrete pillar up in front of it?
Well, where we're moving it to, we shouldn't have to.
Moving it, how far south?
18 feet.
18 feet
Yeah,
south.
I think it's 18 feet. But when we move it that way, it won't be where that turn is. But what we're going to have to do, I'm such a good drawer.
Yeah, this will be good.
This will be really good. If this is Parkview, and this is 79, and this is Chipotle,
Okay.
right here, that mast arm is
There,
like right here. The
Yeah.
pole is.
Yeah.
And what they've been doing, they've been cutting this too sharp, and then they've clipped that pole, so we're going to move it over here 18 feet. But what we're going to have to do is, with those trucks, since there isn't a pole there, they have to miss now. They will, I guarantee you, they will do this and run right over the curb, into the grass, and back over the curb
Whose
again,
property?
because there's nothing to keep it.
Chipotle's.
So we may have to put some bollards,
yeah.
like you were talking about, Dick,
Yeah.
and so they can't do that, because I guarantee you they will.
Yeah, they'll be up on that curve.
Oh yeah, they'll do it right, and they won't care.
Yeah.
They won't care.
Bob, is there okay, so we're talking about moving the pole 18 feet farther away from the southbound lanes that are looking at that signal. Is that a concern?
No,
That's not too far of a distance from, okay.
no, we've checked all that.
Okay.
I think I asked Susan that from Jokes, and she said I think she couldn't remember. It's 150 feet, 200, somewhere in there. Those lights. I mean, you can't have a light so far you can't see it, but it doesn't matter as much, that way. It's about 150 feet or something. She said.
Okay.
It's going to cost 15.
Yeah, but we have already appropriated
Bless you
for that. So,
Okay.
and their drawings were wrong originally. They had it moved it 36 feet, and that wasn't right, so they had to go back and
So
relook
when
at
do you
it.
think it'll be installed? Hopefully.
Hopefully in a couple months, you know, just, I don't know if they have to manufacture the arm. And then,
Remember how long it
MP
took to get those arms in
Oh,
originally?
wow. Yeah, that was awful. And then MP Dory is doing the wiring and doing the job. The ones that just did the
Yeah.
those banners. And since we're talking about MP Dory, I did see them working on them last week. So I think those banner poles are done. I think I saw them working on them.
Huh.
I saw them out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw them working on them.
Okay.
So they might be done.
Okay. Good.
I saw,
All right.
I saw them out there. There was 2 trucks they had out there. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Mowing right of ways on 79. I talked to the mayor about this today, and I've talked to John, and everybody's noticing it's just a pet peeve of mine. But the company that in front of Best Buy, and then in front of the coffee shop, and what's on the corner there now where the
That's
Quiznos
Charlie's.
used to be.
Charlie's.
In front
I
of-
think they just
If you
opened.
notice, the grass is at least, I don't know,
Yeah.
2 to 3 feet high.
Yeah.
Going down Putnam it is, and then all the way down Custer. I mean, I saw a woman walking today, and it's on both sides. I mean, you can barely waist up. You can see her. That's it. So I was just asking John the mayor what we could do about that, and you know, I guess that we have to notice that the grass is high, and then we have to send a notice to them, and then we have to wait. I don't know what that wait is. 30 days or
I don't know what that wait
just
period
1
is.
week, and then we can send them another notice, but these companies are always out of town. They don't respond, though. You said this
Even if
company
they don't
did
John
respond?
John told me that he spoke with a representative of the company. He told me that, I think, beginning part of last week. Because I asked why this grass wasn't getting cut either. My understanding is that he was going to be sending them a violation, but the company told John that they had hired a new
Landscaping company.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so there was some, I guess, some, you know, delay there, confusion in that, and also that the contract was executed late. So later than maybe they would have liked. So I think that led to part of this as well.
We don't wait that long for, or we don't give residents that much leeway.
We give residents notice.
We do. But we
They
don't let
used
it
to
get
mow
that
it
long.
on all these companies.
That's true.
And Joe Hall and Glenn Greenwell, they mow it up.
I just had to go
That's
through
right.
that again.
I don't know, what got into motel, is it Motel 6?
Yeah, is that what it's called? On
What's
the
that?
corner, the motel on the corner of Irving Wick and 79? Is that
Eight.
what-
Super 8.
Super 8.
Yeah,
It was, had a
they
number in
quit
it.
mowing too. Yeah, golf, they,
Dave's been taking the mower that they have over there and mowing it on a smaller mower, because they used to mow all the way up there, now they don't. You know, the bank.
Are they still mowing what they're responsible for mowing?
Yeah, I think so, but they something with the bank, they don't mow the bank
Send
anymore.
out notices and then go ahead and.
Well, we've been mowing it, so it's in the right of way. That's
He's
why I
talking
was
about
asking.
he's talking about the Super 8.
Yeah,
yeah, right, Rug has been mowing theirs.
But I'm talking about the others that you're gonna send notices.
well, John
No,
knows
no,
that.
yeah, John.
knows that.
John.
He's already done that.
All right.
Yeah, I think he's already sent that out.
But what I asked the mayor today was, let's just say we're mowing in front of Super 8, and that's next
Sorry.
to the road, and we're mowing that. Would we be allowed to go in there and mow in front of, on 79? Is that considered right of way? We used to. I mean, I asked Jimmy Craner. This was a long time ago, but they used to mow all the right of ways down 79 in front of all the businesses. They used to go down there and mow with like a big tractor, just knock the stuff down. They used to do that. So I don't know if that's considered right of way there or not. But it's so high now that you would have to weed eat it, I think, and then rake it and put it in something and then go back and mow it probably. It's so high the way it is now.
What are those things that you go like?
Yeah, like a sickle.
Is that what it is?
Side.
So I do wheat, yeah. I mean, that's what you may have to do, it's so high.
Is it ours or is it theirs? We don't know.
Well, I mean, they've been mowing it forever, so we, you know, they can make it look, make it look better than what we can over time.
Oh, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But then, some of these companies just me are looking for ways not to save money. I don't know.
Well, I told you what this company
Yeah,
told
definitely,
John.
right. Yeah.
That's what they told John.
Okay. Hopefully it'll be
They
taken.
don't hesitate to put a sign
Hopefully it'll
out
be
there
taken
Yeah.
care of.
They do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Number 4, we're still fixing potholes. I mean, there's no paving plan for this year unless you wanted to do something. I'd have to check how much money we have.
Well, clearly we're gonna have to spend some money in front of Meritor to fix that. So
Well, that's
it'll be interesting to see.
that's
It'll be interesting
on
to
my
see
list.
what that comes out to be.
Well, the water plant's probably going to pay for that. It's going to come out of water funds.
Okay.
Since we're talking about that, if you haven't noticed, if you haven't went down 79, we had another big water break. Almost exactly where we had the other water break, and that was approximately, I'll probably exaggerate, 2 months after we paved it.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, and we're having these water breaks, and then we have to dig up brand new pavement to fix the water breaks. And
It's a new pipe, right?
No.
no, this is the
Old one?
one that
Correct.
John. Now, don't get mad. I'm not only the messenger. But Johnny said that he came in. Johnny Geller came in here and asked to move that water line, and council would not let him do that or appropriate the money to do that. So that water line was left in there, and it's an old one. He wanted to move that off the side of the road. So if we did have a water break, we wouldn't have the problems that we have now. Is that true? I mean, that's
As
how it was
part of
explained to me.
as part of the safety improvement project,
Right.
you know, there was the water line that was run along the east side of the road. And I don't know what time frame we're talking about here when this conversation was had. But anyway, do you seem to remember it, or is that?
No, no.
Oh, okay. John said that he presented the idea of basically from the city limit replacing the line. What was decided on was to only replace the part of the line that was out in the middle of the road. You know, where we're talking about the improvement is off on the side of the road, not off of the road, but off to the side of the road. And where the medians and such are, that's where the water line was. It was right smack dab down the middle of the road. So the decision was made to replace the part of the line that is right smack dab down the middle of the road. So where this main break took place was not the new piece of pipe, old piece of pipe over on the side.
And Job said that Spires, and that's who did our paving last time, was in Hebron. And last communication I had, they were going to call them and have them give us an estimate of what that would cost, because that's too big for us to go in there and do it right, because we can't get it as smooth. They came in the last time and remember they did it like in October, November, when it was, really late in the year, and it wasn't as smooth, but that's a major intersection with us, and it has to be done right. Yeah, so I don't know how much water line there is to move down there, if we ever moved it, but those are the problems that we have when there are water lines underneath the road. Spires.
It was Spire. They had the paving contract last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they added that on as part of the job that they were doing.
As a favor, that's at the end of the year.
How are things progressing, or the time frame on Licking View? As far as fixing some of those ruts and, and craters and whatnot.
We're we'll have to take the dirt patcher out and do some areas.
Is there a time frame for that?
And, I mean, whatever, I don't know where that is on their priority list, but I can check.
Should be up there.
I almost need to go and pave the whole road again. That's
Terrible. It is bad.
There's a couple of places. that I hit this time, you know, where you turn right on 22nd Street there, on the inside of that, right off edge of pavement, it's a hole about that deep, it drops down.
We got a lot of places like that too that we're gonna have to put in a lot of fill. Irving Wick Drive is bad. We did all that last year. We go back, it's
Right there by
the same again.
Or Gorse Mill, turn right on Gorse Mill there too.
We have a lot of bad places.
That's all the ones I know about, because
I mean, we have places, I mean, when we go through our, I mean, I'm hoping that we have, I haven't checked to see how much we have right now, but I'm guessing that maybe next year, at the first of the year, and then we add another 150,000. I mean, we might be up to, I don't know, I think we have 400.
We might be around 400.
500,000. Yeah, I think we'll be above 400,000. I'm just a guess. If we include 2015, we might be closer to 500,000. So we can do some major things, but if we go into a residential area like the road, I heard someone mention Greenbrier where the apartments are.
Yeah.
That's a total redo.
Oh, you're talking about Green Valley?
Yes, that's if we do
Yeah,
that.
the curbs need to be replaced there too.
Curbs and gutters, and that's a total redo. And with that,
Even in Greenbrier itself.
yeah, curb bad places. So when you do a residential area and we're trying to replace a curb, it's going to cost. Because remember,
Yeah.
Wedgwood was 300,000, and that was to replace all curb gutters
Curbs and, yeah.
and everything.
How long is Greenbrier?
Green Valley?
Green Valley, problem, oh, that's,
It
it
would
goes
be
down there quite a ways.
Yeah, but it would probably be about half, maybe.
I was gonna
what-
say it might be half the
Yeah.
amount that Wedgwood was.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing in Green Valley, there are so many drives. I mean, it's barely like you have just a little bit of a curve, and then you have a drive, then a little bit of a curve, and you have a drive.
There's
If
a lot
you
of
cut all
cutouts.
that out, you have to. Those people are going to have to park on the other side of the street, or
Yeah, I
if they're
know.
disabled, like some people were in Woodland, you have to put plates down so they can get to the drive.
I know.
So that's.
I know this stuff's not cheap.
No. So
We, remember also, we, Licking View Drive, what's it been, maybe 2 or 3 months ago? John Groff talked about how we, have applied to have Licking View Drive get the same, federal designation as what like Hopewell Drive has, or 30th Street, because, you know, really it is, it's yeah, well, I mean, it's used every day, every school day by the school buses going to the high school and the middle school, twice a day.
There's a lot of
It's-
firms, business firms that use that route.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, you know, that stretch of road has just about every factor working against it. It's not like Hopewell Drive where it's really thick. It runs along the side of, you know, the river there. The soil is around here is mostly clay, which just acts like a sponge. You know, you go over it, it just gives. Again, you've got buses running on it, you've got trash trucks running on it, you've got just more vehicles in general running on it than you typically do a residential street. Then you've got the trees that line the whole side of it along the riverbank, which throw shade onto the road all the time, which means that it doesn't have a good chance of drying out from the sun hitting it. I mean, it's got every factor practically working against it.
we didn't pay that very long. Not very long.
No, it was what, 07, 08? I mean, that is not very long ago.
That's a little scary. So.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's just it's got every factor working against it.
Stormwood on the list?
Thornwood is on the
Thornwood's on John's list.
John's list.
Yeah, it's
This year?
OPWC.
I think it's 15.
It's 2015 when the one.
I I can't remember if it's 14 or 15. I'd have to ask
I
John.
think it was 15, but weren't they thinking the end of this year? Because that's when the year starts somewhere.
Yeah, I'd have to ask John. I just can't remember. I can't remember long enough to know.
Something similar to that.
We won't see that road after another winter.
I think that's all. Well, one other thing. If you have noticed the medians on 79, we had a company come in and we have three islands in the medians, and we had them come in and clean it out. They trimmed the rose bushes on the one. They took out all the dead shrubs. I had them move. Some of the shrubs, to me, they're planted too close to the curve that's next to 79, and we took those rows out, and the ones that were still alive, we moved and put them in the middle of the rows on the other two islands. A lot of the trees are dead. John has had the trees replaced, but a lot of them didn't live, so we're taking out all the dead trees.
Wait. The ones that ODOT just replaced?
Yeah. Well, I don't know which ones. John didn't even know which ones they replaced. But there are trees that are dead that we're going to have to yank out. We're not going to leave them in the middle of the island, a dead tree. So,
My understanding is, from John, that those trees being under warranty, especially in the two northern islands, northern and the middle one, that the trees on there were to be replaced by ODOT.
some of them are, I don't know which ones, and he seemed like he didn't know which ones, so I'll talk with him when I talk to him about it.
Well, let's talk about that this week.
Well, they're going to be yanked out this week. So if you don't want that to happen,
Well,
you better tell me.
Okay.
Because,
Don't do it until we know which ones have been replaced.
yeah, we better find out tomorrow then.
and all the ones that were dead
'Cause they're gonna
were
be-
to be replaced.
Oh, under warranty.
Correct.
They
Under
might
warranty.
have
They're
replaced
under
them, but
warranty.
then what they do, they come back and tell you that, well, we can't do it till a year from now. And then we have a dead tree sitting in our median for a year, right?
Well, we got a warranty on these, Bob. Let's not yank them out of the ground yet. Let's talk to John. Let's circle the wagons on
Okay,
this.
but
and-
we're planting flowers in there, and I don't wanna yank those trees out after we have the flowers already planted in. I mean, we need to find out tomorrow, and if ODOT's supposed to replace them, we need to get ODOT out here tomorrow to look at them and say, they're dead, so we can move forward with this. It just seems like we've been waiting on this forever and ever and ever. And I know it's not our fault.
Yeah. Welcome to ODOT.
You're getting him all riled up.
Well, I've been right up on it. But it's time that we start fixing stuff, you know? Making things looking better around here. We can't mow grass, we can't take out dead trees, we seem like it's not our fault, but we have to wait on people all the time. It's time we just started doing stuff, I think. Anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow. about
Okay.
that. If we have to wait on ODOT the rest of our life, look at the mast arms,
Hey.
look at the banners we had to wait on.
Well, I'm not gonna say it, but that's part of the game, Bob. I mean, you know that. You take grant money, you take federal funding, it's what you have to deal with.
It sounds incompetent to me. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, I'm not saying
When it takes that long to replace something and get something done right.
I'm not arguing that they're the fastest moving organization known to man, but
Well, I think they might even get somebody out, and it takes them forever to get here once they make contact.
Anything else?
No, I've quit on that roll.
With nothing else to add, we adjourn at 5:54.
All right. We will call Parks, Recreation, and Davis Shai to order at 5:54. First item on the agenda, pool repairs, Bob.
As an ongoing thing with our pool, the leak detection company was out there for the activity pool, and they were trying to run a liner through there. I think I talked about this last time, and there are so many 45s and 90s in this piping that gets to the activity pool that they can't push it through. So we had to dig up an area where there are a lot of 45s and 90s so they could start the liner in there, but then they push it so far and they hit more. And we would have to keep digging up areas of concrete in order to get this liner all the way through. It's not gonna happen this year. So they're gonna do what they can, and then, hopefully where they did line it, that might be where the problem is. But if not, then that may be something we have to do in the fall, because the fall of the year is the best time to do this stuff instead of the spring. So, we're just gonna have to wait and see if that solves the problem. You know, we can still have the activity pool open and everything else, but we have to use a lot of makeup water. And, there's just so many 45s and 90s that they just can't push this stuff through, so. If we try to line the whole thing, we may have to dig up different areas, and then we have to go back in. I mean, it's a process, because you dig this up, and all these pipes are in there, they have to bring a back truck, bring this long hose in, suck up all the pea gravel, basically, that's in there, and then cut the pipe, and then do all that stuff, and then put the pea gravel back in, which they have to do by hand. Put in one wheelbarrow they had, take it over there, dump it in, bringing it back, so it's a process. And we just can't have it going anymore, because we're starting to fill the pools up now.
So the repairs, the water line repair, the pool water line repairs that they're going to be able to do or have already done, what's the price tag on what they have
We
done?
don't know till they're done. We don't know. We appropriated $30,000 on they gave me an estimate of $20,000.
Was that for everything, or just for or was that for everything, not knowing that there were
No,
some
I think that was
bends
for
and-
everything, but if they can't put the liner all the way through, then it probably could be less, but then we're gonna have to buy someone's gonna have to come in and concrete the areas we already dug up, so that'll be a cost. But we could take that out of that 30,000 that we have appropriated, or well appropriated.
Yeah. And the pool opens.
Oh, we'll have it done.
Okay.
We'll have it done.
Okay.
Any other questions about the,
No, that's not all.
That's not
You want me
it?
to stop there?
no, I
That's
mean
not
about
it.
the pool repairs? That's
You want me to stop there?
Well, I would just like more repairs.
This is a good time of year.
All right, what else?
Well, we filled up the old pool, which is the Olympic tank, the learning pool, and the diving tank. And Craig told me the day that, this before we started the pumps up, that, the water went down basically overnight or over the weekend. Well, that's not good. So we started the pumps up, and the makeup water is running almost all the time. So that, from our experience from the old pool, which was built in 1971, that means the gutters are probably leaking. And the gutters leaking is just basically, which is what we hope it is, the caulking gets bad in there. And it's something that we have done, I don't know how often we do it, every 6-7 years, maybe since the pool's been open, we have to replace the caulking in the gutters. And to replace the caulking in the gutters, you have to lift all those limestone caps off so you can get in there and then recaulk it. I think when we did that 15 years ago or so, it was $25,000. So that's a cost that could be as high as, I don't know, $50,000 to go in there, recaulk everything in the gutters. Take that off. And again, that's something that you want to do in the fall of the year, because it gives them more time to get it done. But sometimes they don't get it done, they come back in the spring and finish up. So, that's a guess right now. We'll see, we'll monitor and see if the makeup water is running all the time. If it is, then that basically means you probably have a leak in the gutters. Which is not something that hasn't happened to us before, but it just needs to be fixed.
It has happened before.
It has happened before.
Okay.
Yes, it has happened before.
And it has to be fixed.
Yes, it'll have to
Oh,
be
yeah.
fixed.
Yeah.
It's just things that it's expensive to have a pool. There's no doubt about it. And then there's all sorts of little things we won't go into. But Craig
Did
did
the
a great
pumps
job.
work okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
All
We
right.
had to replace one or two, but it's not that bad when you have to replace the smaller ones in there.
Okay.
But it's a job, and thank goodness that Craig he's very experienced, and Mr. Mitchell coming back helps out tremendously too, and they work well together. So
Yeah.
we're
So,
trying to fix
Bob,
it.
are you thinking your estimate of $50,000 for the caulking of the gutters? Are you thinking you may want to come to council with the appropriation request After towards the end of the summer?
Yeah, after I have an estimate from it, and yes.
Okay, so you won't be able to get an estimate on it until after the pool's closed and it's drained and they can get in and take a look at it?
Possibly, yeah, unless we did just go off on what they have done before. You know, this general maintenance company that we use, they're the ones that always do it for us. So they may have what, you know, the linear feet and everything else, they may already have that.
How long ago was that
I
type
don't
of
know.
thing last done?
I'd have to ask Craig.
I mean, that long ago then?
It's been a while. I know we did it when I took over parks, which was, I don't know what that was, 16, 17 years ago. We did it within a year or two of that, I know. And I'm sure, I can't be positive, but I'm thinking we probably have done it once since. It's a possibility.
So is your $50,000 thought based on what the price was then, or what the price
Yeah,
would maybe be today?
What is today?
Okay.
Because we did it back then, it was 25, 30,000.
All right.
That was 15, 16 years ago. But we'll look at that.
Okay.
On two, we did go over this. We are filling the pool. We filled the diving tank, the Olympic tank, the learning pool. I think they got the baby pool going today. So I think that's all going on right now. So we have that going on. But of course, we can't fill the activity pool and the other ones until they're done with that liner. So I think they were filling it back in today. So once we don't have to have a concrete before we put it in. So that's where we're at with filling the pool right now.
All right.
Our pool membership at the end of April was I think Heath can verify this. It was around $47,000 that we brought in. Almost, let's just say 48,000. It was very close to 48,000. Though in 2013 we brought in around 53,000. So we were down a little bit from what we had brought in the year before, but through the years, what I've seen, that's kind of normal when you have a bad summer. And we've had 2 bad summers in a row with storms and, rain of 17 days in a row. So those things have went against us a little bit. So when that happens, people are a little bit leery of buying a pool membership because maybe they didn't use it as much the year before. So sometimes your admissions or walk-ins increase that year. So this year we anticipate that will be happening. And then sometimes you have a good summer, then the memberships sell really good in April next year. So we just have to wait and see. But we were close to what we sold last year. So.
Okay, anybody have anything else for the pool? That was one. Any questions, any comments about the pool?
When's our meeting with the staff? The 28th?
28th at 4. Yep, 28th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Then the next thing on the agenda is the bed tax allotment proposal, and I'll have the mayor talk about that.
Thanks, Bob. Go ahead. Lon, if you want to go. Go ahead.
they're waiting.
You know, when I campaigned for office, I know that there were some people who didn't believe me, but I was asked a number of times about the Davis Shai House and the Heath Community Arts Council. And what I had always said during the campaign is that I felt as though when you looked at what was all involved with that and the agreements that were in place, it was my opinion that success was the best option. And I had always defined success as there being a broad spectrum of programs that were available for the community, so that from time to time broad spectrum of the residents of the community would be able to enjoy the Shai House and the events that were there. The end result then hopefully being that you would have a decent size, certainly not a majority. I don't think you have any kind of a majority with a Parks and Recs program offering, but a decent size segment of the population of Heath who, you know, found value there and believed that it would be worth the city's investment of what we put into it. I believed that success was the best option. I also believed that success was obtainable, and that that I would do what I could to try to help achieve that success. After taking office, it took a period of time, but my thinking is that I did what I could, you know, to try to help it succeed. And that some of the people who were maybe skeptical as to my sincerity about that were convinced that what I said I meant was exactly what I meant. I no longer believe that success is obtainable. I no longer believe that we can as continuing to go down the path that we have, I no longer believe that we will succeed in having a segment, decent sized segment of the population of Heath find, you know, value in the project. And I guess I would kind of draw an analogy like this. I think we were all talking about the pool here just a minute ago. By no means do the majority of the people of Heath buy pool memberships. Nor do the majority of the people of Heath, I feel, probably come to the pool at any point in time. But I think certainly there's an easily identifiable, fairly sizable segment of the population of Heath who do enjoy the water park and that offering. I don't think that the majority of the people in Heath utilize the bike trail, walking trail system that we have in town. But, you know, if you drive by or happen to sit there and watch for a little while, you can certainly see that there's a fairly sizable, easily identifiable, you know, segment of people who do. I don't think the majority of the people at Heath use Hoback Park. But when you look at the fact that there's 600, well, no, I think it's more than 700 kids in the baseball and softball leagues down there, clearly there's a clear, somewhat sizable segment of the people of Heath who do. I don't believe that there is a clear, sizable segment of the people of Heath who do anything involving the Davis Shai House. And I don't base this on the past 12 months or the past 24 months or whatever. It's been 12 years since the city of Heath began allocating a portion of its 95% or $75,000, whichever is the greater of the two, of revenue toward the Heath Community Arts Council. So I guess my opinion is based on looking at 12 years of what has happened, and after 12 years, where we're at. I believe that there are some people in Heath who do find value and believe it's worth what the investment is, but I personally believe that I could walk through a neighborhood and knock on doors and talk to 100 different people and ask them the question, do you find value in the Davis Shai House project as it is right now, and is it worth what the city invests in it every year? And if I had 5 people answer yes to that, I would probably be surprised. I don't feel that if success is not there now, and if I no longer believe that success is obtainable, then my conscience does not allow me to do anything other than to recommend that council repeal the ordinance from 2002 that specifies the allocation of the bed tax. And so I make that recommendation to this body now, that in the Finance Committee there will be a legislative request to repeal, what is it, 58, Jeff?
2002.
Ordinance 58, 2002, which is the ordinance that was that specifies the allocation of the bed tax.
Okay, I know we have a lot of comments, but I wanted to say a few things just to start, because I guess my concerns partly are that we need to do due diligence before we make a move like that. And I think that, you know, I've heard about the Davis Shai House from the day I took office as well, and you know, I think that all the common denominator is that all the people involved, including what you're proposing, everyone is doing it based on what they believe is the best interest of the citizens of Heath. But I know in the beginning I was told we can't do that, the state grants will have to be repaid, will cost the city all this money, and I would like to know.
Hold on a second, Deb. I apologize. I should have brought these over at this before the start of the meeting. Hold on a second. When I was a kid, my father used to say to me sometimes that I would forget my head if it wasn't attached. It's funny how often I find myself saying that, particularly to my younger daughter. 1, 2, 3, 4. Heath, do you already have a copy of that? Did I give you a copy of that?
You did give me a copy.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to not take one then.
Sure.
There's 3 others. Here's a couple copies. Does anybody want me to make any? This is a memo from David Morrison that outlined. Do you want me to make? I got 2 here. Does anybody else in particular want copies?
I wrote that as a confidential memorandum with a lawyer and client, but the city can waive that privilege, that confidentiality if it wants to, like, he knows. That was the idea.
Do you want to discuss this in executive committee then?
Well, I don't know that we have,
Executive session?
I don't know that we have grounds to call an executive session,
Okay.
but, I didn't mean
Choose
it for
not to discuss it
publication.
if we don't want to. We'll have to discuss it.
Let's do that then.
Okay,
Go ahead
and
and-
okay, and then I just had a couple other concerns in that, you know, I'm not sure
Go ahead and pass them back then.
what role the county commissioners and the Convention and Visitors Bureau play in this because of their role with the bed tax. So that's a concern that comes to mind to me.
I got a question before we hand these back. If we're gonna be asked to send the money back, don't we need all the information rather than sending it back?
What, isn't that
Yeah,
between,
David, hold on a second. David, let me ask you a question. What is there in here that you feel is confidential?
Well, when the client asked me for an opinion, everything's confidential unless the client decides otherwise.
Okay.
And there's an attorney-client privilege on top of that, besides the confidentiality. There's nothing there that I want to keep a secret, that I want to keep a secret.
I agree.
I just want you to know that I
That's
didn't write
fine.
that for publication.
I agree. I don't think there's anything in here that's confidential either.
What is confidential, that you can waive your confidence?
I'll do that. Does anybody else want copies of this then, other than the two that I have? All right, let me run a few more off. I guess, David, I don't see, if you want to just pass it down, that'd probably be enough for everybody. I don't, I think the information in here are related to questions that are valid, that are gonna come up, that should come up anyway. And, I don't see any reason why we should, not share the information of your analysis of the documents, with the understanding that this is your opinion of the analysis of the documents. I had asked David to provide information as it relates to the state of Ohio's interest in the Davis Shai house, the Arts Council, and the city, primarily from the city. In short, there's nothing in this document, there's nothing in the grant agreements or anything with the state that say that the state can take ownership of the property away from the city of Heath. There's nothing in the documents that says that the state can take from the city of Heath any amount of money as it relates to the grant. What it does say, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, so if I miss a key point in your explanation, feel free to chime in.
Sure.
what the document does say is that the Ohio Cultural Facilities Commission, should the Arts Council not operate it as a cultural facility, the Ohio Cultural Facilities Commission has the ability to come in and operate it as such. Now, whether or not the state of Ohio would spend any money to do that is a question that is beyond me. I have an opinion on that, but my opinion is probably as good as anybody else's. But that's what the document specifies what could be done. I want to mention this too. You know, the city has a lease in place with the Arts Council, and it has a management contract with the Arts Council, and I've expressed this information to the Arts Council board members. What was it, Ron? About a week and a half ago? Something like that? May 8th. Okay. You know, everything that I'm telling you is what I have told the Arts Council board already. You know, the city has the lease in place, the management contract in place, and I see no reason why the city can't continue to uphold its obligations as it relates to those agreements, including the financial ones. We most certainly would. I also it's not my call to make. The Heath Community Arts Council is its own 501c3 entity and certainly calls its own shots. But I do not believe that the Arts Council needs to cease to exist should council take this step. Now, would things need to be looked at through an entirely different prism? Absolutely. Just as I think the city needs to look at this project through an entirely different prism. But I'm not, I guess, 100% convinced that the Heath Community Arts Council as an entity, you know, needs to automatically, you know, fold up its tent should this ordinance be repealed. I think as it relates to the use of the house, there's certainly events that could take place there, but the problem that we have, if we're all honest with ourselves, we all know it. The problem that we have is that there's an extremely large majority of people who, if they know where the Davis in Heath, who, if they know where the Davis Shai house is, do not believe that there are events and things that take place there that appeal to them. And again, I emphasized this to the board when I met with them earlier this month, and I would emphasize to you. This is not a reflection of 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. We're 12 years into this. My interactions with the people that I talk to when this topic comes up are overwhelmingly, I mean, without a doubt, overwhelmingly, that there's nothing there that interests them. And after such a long period of time, that opinion, that perspective is deeply entrenched in people's mindsets. I think that along with fulfilling the obligations of the lease and the management contract, the city ought to work hard to try to find a way to rebrand the place. We ought to try to make an effort to...
You're saying the city as in this group, council and...
This group, myself, Bob, the city. Yes, we ought to try to make an effort to make this place seen as more of a true community center. I guess is maybe the best description that I can think of for it. You know, we have the Con Shelter House at Geller Park. Heath, we rent that out for what, $35, $45 a rental?
35 on weekends, 25.
That place is always being utilized. And we know it because they come here to fill out the sheets to rent it. We have a shelter house at Hoback Park. It's not much more than a roof and cinder blocks and heat and a bathroom. I think we have some tables and chairs in there too. We rent that out for $100. And in talking to Keith, we estimate that that's maybe rented out maybe a dozen times a month. Is that right, Keith, roughly?
Could be more than that.
By people who live in Heath and by people who don't live in Heath. It's utilized. People use it for graduation parties and birthday parties and anniversaries and you know, there's utilization there. In my opinion, over the last 12 years, we have not succeeded. And I no longer believe that success is an option. And that being the case, my conscience compels me to make a recommendation to you that we no longer provide the bed tax money to the Arts Council. And I'll be glad to answer any questions or...
Well, I know we have other people that wanna make comments, so we'll open it up to whoever wants to. Who do you are?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I'm Park Shea. Those of you, I think I know everybody in here, so I don't know if you need me to introduce myself or not, but president of the Heath Community Arts Council Board. Have been for about a year and a half. And there's just some points that I've made here that I feel like I want to share with you. You know, when my father and group at the city, Carolyn and Mary and Jan and all these guys got together, Mayor Duffs, nobody really knew what this house was going to be. Nobody knew. Dad didn't say, I want it to be a library, I want it to be a picnic shelter or what. But over the time, you know, Jan had a lot to do with it, obviously, Jan Wilkin. It's turned into, I believe, Mayor coined your phrase, a hoity-toity place.
I would say that that's the perception that the vast majority of people Heath have. That's an opinion that they have.
Okay. It's a nice place. It's a fantastic place. It's turned into the gem of Heath, Ohio. When I'm in commercial real estate, I bring people, new businesses to town. I drive them by there or stop in and show it to them. Mayor Jones, you took the president of a German company there, or the owner of that company. I can't imagine where you would take him other than a place like that to impress somebody. So it is a gem. It is turned into something a little more elegant. It's not Quebec Park. It's not a place to grill hot dogs on the lawn. It's a place to show off the city of Heath. It's a 160 whatever year old home that's turned into what I would say is somewhat of a community center and brings in travel and tourism to your city. I just think it'd be, if we cut off the funding this quick, we're kind of cutting off our nose to spite our face. We haven't done due diligence. It's not complete. I mean, it would take a tremendous amount of time and effort to do that. Time and effort. We need to know what we're getting into. You need to know what you're getting into, whether that's with the government and the grants and what kind of a cloud that puts on what you're going to do in the future with those politicians, with the people that have donated money and time and effort into this building. That's an important thing to consider also for council, or for this group, I guess, to take it to council, as I understand. The countless volunteers and donors and corporations, the Cocosings, the Englefield Oils, I mean, I could go on and on and on. The foundations, all these people are very much supporting of this property, have been from day one. I don't own the property, it's not mine, it's got my name on it, so it means something to me. This came at us, I think, as a board pretty quick. We didn't have time to really digest it or to do much more, although I appreciate Mayor Johns for approaching us and letting us know that this was gonna happen. I know Jan Wilkin very well, and her biggest fear was that this would happen, that we would get the funding pulled from us. And I think those that are on the board, and Mayor Johns and Bob Geller when he was on the board, from day one, I've always said this thing needs to be run as a business. We need an endowment someday. We need to make a profit. We need to wean it away from the city. We amended the lease and we agreed to amend the lease with you and reduce the executive director's pay. That's been a year or something like that going on, maybe a little longer.
Park, just to clarify, that wasn't an amendment of the lease, that was a different agreement, the management contract that you're referring to.
Okay. That's right, right. So, it's not something that we haven't had, worries about with Jan, but it's in the big picture of the city's budget. I can't imagine that $80, $90, $100,000. And if you take over part of your due diligence, I'm in real estate, when buildings are empty, they're a lot harder and a lot more expensive to take care of. The economic impact of the community. There's people that come here from far away. We went to Akron this weekend to the Stan Hewitt building up in Akron. We're from here. We went up there, we spent money, we stayed in a hotel, we ate dinner, we bought rhododendrons. We did a lot of stuff. We're not from there. That's what people come out of town for. That's what you're doing, is you're showcasing your city. If it needs to be part more of the involvement of the local people, we're very open to that as a board. We would love to see that happen. We just need help from the city. Let's sit down, tell us what they want. If it's a senior night, if it's learn how to knit, if it's playing cards, if it's a cooking class, fine. Let's do it. I think, Jill, you can, and Carolyn, there are local people that come and do enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, we've reached out to you, you're not on the board right now, so it's kind of hard, and Deb does come as an ex officio. If you or Bob were back on that, I think that communication would open wide up, where it used to be before. You know, it's not the only piece of property that's not making money. I mean, Keith, how much is the pool make?
Doesn't make money, it costs money.
I mean, do we close the pool? Is that the next step of this?
No, I would say no, because there's a easily identifiable, rather sizable segment of the people in Heath who utilize that facility. It's part of my argument, Park, is that's over the past 12 years, that dynamic has not been created at the Davis Shai house.
What has the city done to assist the board to add more events to that effect? Or to welcome the local people better?
Over the last 12 years,
Yeah.
I would argue quite a bit.
I mean, just give me, you have an example?
You know? We helped to, how long did we have those signs on the city's things? Once, it was just about all of last year about the new discoveries or the new, I can't remember what those signs said. Jill, do you remember what those signs said? I can't remember. Yeah, there you go, thank you, we had new experiences. Which were all over town. I mean, there's one in the last 12 months. Over the last 12 years, I don't know. I would argue quite a bit. Although I'm not sure that the lease agreement requires the city to do that. But I think the city has done that. Bob,
We've helped with the Christmas event during Christmas the whole time, as far as labor goes. A lot of labor through that. And really anything Janet ever asked us to do in the past, we've always been there. I think what we contributed mostly has been
and
a
Jill
lot
as
of
well.
labor.
I mean, I think
And Jill as well, right?
I think the communication, Jill, maybe that you had sent me back in December, and I was pleased to see this, is that, you know, you said that the park staff always goes above and beyond to try to help, and that I thought that was great. I was pleased to see that.
But creating events that people will use is not that answer, I don't think, that I'm hearing. You know, before you guys take this thing and take it to council, I think you really gotta consider doing the due diligence. There's a far better way to go about this, and us all work together. Where we have open arms, we would be tickled to have even once a month meetings, start to have that communication process much more open than what it is right now, because I don't feel that it's all that great. And have a common goal. If that's getting the community involved, great. Let's do that. You know, and I hope you're doing it consistently with all the other projects that are in the city, but what do you want the house to be after the fact? If that funding's gone, we're closed. We're boarded up.
Why?
Because we can't run it.
So, and this is where I was saying again, obviously that would be the Arts Council's call. So the Arts Council would not at all be willing to look at this through a different prism. I mean, is that what you're saying? Because I know that the city would have
I just
to
need
do
to know
that.
what the prism is. I mean, if we don't have staff, we have problems. We can't make phone calls, we can't engage weddings. I mean, this is gonna be in the paper tomorrow. We just lost probably a bunch of business just having this conversation tonight. It's not gonna be a positive thing for, if a bride wants to come get married there in 2015, which is what we're booking now, she's gonna go, well, I don't even know if you're gonna be open. If you're not open, what, I mean, and Jill's has to answer those people tomorrow. Or hopefully they're from out of town, don't read the local papers. I hope they buy it, but. Sorry about that. No, I just, in my company, we work as a team on everything that we do. And I think that if the Heath Community Arts Council and the Parks and Rec people and the city council would work together and have really clear, close communication, I'm completely convinced that we can rebrand it if that's what you want to do, or that we can continue having a world-class, first-class building and open our arms more to local population events. We can't rent it for $35. You know, you do more damage on it than, you know, I don't know that we're trying to get the Hoback Park type things in there. But if that's what you're saying to us, then we'll try to figure out how to do that.
All right, I know Ron.
Yeah, I had some, Ron Kruger, City Heath, I got some comments, some brief people at Park said, some addressed you what the mayor's already said, but I'm reading because these are comments from the Heath Community Arts Council. I'm a member of that also. I'm just gonna read it off because I'm not gonna take it off the top of my head. I get too old for that. On May 8th, the mayor met with the Heath Community Arts Council and said he was proposing to take away the bed tax from the Davis Shai House starting in 2015. He felt the Davis Shai House needed a reset and did not have any confidence in its success. He explained success is a lack of involvement of Heath citizens or very few Heath citizens using the Davis Shai House. But you mentioned this before. I can make a strong argument that a minority of people already do not use the bike trails, do not use the water park, don't use Geller Park. They're really the only busy one is Hoback. We've all had kids down there. We thought success of the Davis Shai House was for Heath to run it as a cultural arts center with the goal to be self-sustaining. The mayor had proposed a 10-year plan to wean the Davis Shai House off city income. We're 1.5 years in that plan, not much time to judge a plan on how well to do. The Davis Shai House already did a reset when it hired the current director. A business-like person was needed to make the house self-sustaining. A liquor license is now in place to help raise money through other income and events, art and cheese, with the wine, beer events with the Matesic, dinners, rehearsals, showers, weddings. There is planning for larger events for major fundraising. The bed tax. Without the bed tax, the Davis Shai House will likely close. Current changes need time to be successful. As you all know, the bed tax is not paid by Heath citizens, but by visitors. Years back, the hotel owners approached former Mayor Dupps and wanted the bed tax to go toward tourism and not just put in the city budget. The bed tax was earmarked for the Davis Shai House. I think you said 95% or $75,000. The bed tax, even though it's not legally specified for tourism, if you look at the vast majority of cities, they use it for some type of tourism, whether that be a visitor center, convention center, stuff like that. The legal questions, we've already touched on these. You know, there's a number of agreements and contracts that need to be addressed. The management contract with the Community Arts Council, the lease agreement through 2033, the state grants, there's 2 of them. Given to the state, Davis Shai House to run as a cultural arts center, the Pepsi grant. I said here about the state want their money back. There are events planned. There's a contract with creative catering and wedding planning. What will happen with the current employees? What of all the furniture, the dishes, the paintings, the decor given by various individuals, businesses, corporations that believed in the house? The house was not designed to be a Hoback shelter house where you just toss someone the key. The house could be trashed, and the house would still need to be maintained at a cost to the city. It is city property. You know, the mayor's plan. The mayor must give all you a detailed plan of what he plans to do. What are the cost savings? What was planned to be a drain on city resources? Who's going to run it? Does he plan to turn it over to the Friendship Club of Licking County? As council members, you must know all these plans before making an informed decision, and not just throw away the Davis Shai House. Again, Councilwoman Deb Cole's been the only city official at her meeting since the mayor and Bob resigned due to the conflict of interest. We understand that because there was a definite conflict, but they've been invited as non-voting members of the Heath Community Arts Council. And again, I just want to repeat, the Davis Shai House is city property. You should not ignore it. You've been given a list of upcoming events at Davis Shai House. Income is up. There's a big barbecue car show planned for Father's Day. I believe success is still achievable to make it self-sustaining from the city, but time is still needed. The city's too invested in the Davis Shai House that it needs more time, and the bed tax also to be successful. You know, who would have thought years ago when it was saved and it was moved and all that stuff, it is what it is today. And I also had 2 other points. I kind of got my council member thoughts about points brought up. If you rebrand it, you keep using the bed tax until we rebrand it, and then see how successful you can judge as you're going along. Another thing you may remember, you may make a point of is, you may never see another state grant from the state of Ohio again if you screw this one up. And that's it.
Can I use your list for a second, Ron, please? Because I'd like to address some of the points, or most of the points, and having them listed here would be helpful, and I appreciate your comments. And if I failed to mention it before, I do want to mention, I said this to the board members at the meeting earlier this month, and I'll say it again. I have a great deal of respect for each and every one of the board members on the Arts Council board. People that are on that board, some of the people that are around this table, have done a lot over the years toward this project. In no way, shape, or form do I take pleasure at having come to this conclusion, but I have to acknowledge what's clearly in front of my eyes. Let me go through here. Where you talk here about the financial independence of the Arts Council. Again, I'll say this is not looking at this through the last 12 months. We're 12 years into this. We have a fairly good data sample, in my opinion. You all received the report, a financial report. Jeff, I don't know maybe if you kept a copy of it or not handy, but you all received the financial report earlier this month from the Heath Community Arts Council, earlier this year, from the Heath Community Arts Council. That report reflected, I think a $66,000 loss, revenue to expenses. Does that sound about right, Jeff? Last year, we were sitting here looking at the budget for 2014 and trying to understand how in the world are all these events that they were talking about having in 2014, how are they all going to happen? While at the same time showing the expenses reduced. And then the income was increased by something like $40,000 or $50,000 over 2013. I believe the allotment of the city's bed tax for 2014 was already included in that financial report. So any increase in their income wasn't coming from there. They had already put that in. You know, they were showing, I think, on that something like $40,000 or $50,000 in donations, and I can't remember who among it was you that asked the question, and the response was that grant money was going to be used as part of that. Nobody applies grant money to income in a budget. I mean, we all know how difficult grants are, how competitive they can be, how you could have a very worthwhile project that you're applying a grant for, and you think it scores well on the grant application, and then you don't get the money. Ron brought up a topic related to the bed tax and its use, if not for this. This is the question that interests me the most. It's what excites me the most. What are we going to do with the bed tax money if we don't give it to the Arts Council? Goodness, what can we do? Could we have some of that money going over to the pool to get some of these repairs done that Bob talks about? I mean, we've got a 40-some-year-old facility over there that needs to be maintained. that's used by, I believe, a pretty decent segment of the population of Heath. It brings in people from outside of Heath. We know that. Those people go get a blizzard over at Dairy Queen or a sandwich at Burger King or something to that effect. Could we find something new? Could we find something creative? You know, what would we do with the bed tax money if we don't give it to the Arts Council? Boy, what a great question that is in my mind. Because there's a lot of possibilities to apply that towards things that would have a good impact. I would argue possibilities that have the potential of having a greater impact than what the last 12 years have had, giving 95% of it to the Arts Council. On average, over those 12 years, it's $100,000 a year. For 12 years. Do the math. What can we do with the bed tax? That question excites me. The possibilities excite me of what impact that could have. We all know that local governments have been feeling a squeeze from our state government. We've talked about that for how long now? Revenue is significant. But there are possibilities for that bed tax. You know, there's been an effort that you all have seen and heard about to have the Circle Mounds, a couple other sites in Ohio, working through UNESCO to obtain a World Heritage status. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know how that effort will work out, but I know that they're well down that path. And I know that if they are successful in that effort, it will have an impact in tourism to this area and this state that far and away blow anything away that we've ever seen at the Davis Shai house. Perhaps we find a way to help that effort with a portion of it. What would we do with the bed tax money? That's a very exciting question, because right now we have no options other than what we have done for the last 12 years. I'm not saying that this, I'm sorry, let me put one other point. I just want to make one other point. You don't hear me say that I think this place should become a pile of bricks. I do not think that's what should happen. I do not think that's what has to happen. But what has to happen is it has to be something that is seen to have some value and worth the investment to a decent sized segment of the people of Heath. And over the past 12 years, that has not been achieved. I do not believe it can be achieved, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. I'm sorry.
Most of you guys know me, Brian Beatty. Dick, I like your grandsons are nice, have your daughters in class. And all
Yeah.
that.
Now I recognize you.
Coach with Bob,
You're
Dick
my
Alexander, Hedges, I know everybody. I'm a very kind of dispassionate guy about arts, really. I love to read. I'm a freak for that. When I kind of sit there, Mayor, and I know you have a passion for it, and I know you have a lot of ideas, but, from a science, I was a long-time science teacher, when I just look at, how you look at something and how you really test something to go data, everybody has a lot of opinions, everybody has some strong, I say a lot of strong emotion in here. You have a lot of strong emotion. I could tell you about your brain, the amygdala, how emotional part of your brain, how it rules you and kind of gets you going this way, where the prefrontal cortex is just a second, slow down, think about it. I think it's almost, you gotta take the prefrontal cortex, your brain, the logical part that says, we need to slow down on this. This is really, I think, a quick thing. I could care less about the Shea House for years and years, really, I could. But then I started hearing some really good things about the Shea House. I hear some good things from my wife, who understands people better than anybody I know. She's talking about our director and how pretty sharp she is as a business person. And I know you, again, we're kind of decreasing the funds over time and kind of a phase-in thing. And to me, that seems like the most reasonable thing. If I'm a scientist, I'm going to go back and I'm going to collect the data. Is it going to work? Is that, we go down for that 10 years, is it going to get better? I think you got a lot of good people, and I like the unique aspect of the Shea House, because the sad thing about, Heath is we have no downtown. We don't have any historical things, It is the one kind of thing that is kind of nice about Heath. I even talked, I was kind of almost ashamed that we had to move it from where it was, because now it would be in the center, a perfect thing, I think. I know how valuable land is in that. So, guys, I really think about this. I don't think there's any hurry to it. You might have some great plans, but you know what I'd like to decide? I'd like to see the data of some things you really could do, not just there's 1,000 possibilities. Well, yeah, I could go get my PhD in, anatomy like my daughter-in-law did, but I doubt if I'll do it at 61. So what is the actual plans? I think you need to have some concrete plans about what do you want to do with the bed tax. And there might be some great stuff, right? It might be a great way to go. I think the Shea House is really moving in the right direction. I really do. And I don't think, other people pay for the tax. Yeah, we could use it. And I know you got tremendous pressure from, lack of funds because of the way the state is. I know that. And I know you have to think about it. I applaud you guys thinking about that. I really do. And you're getting squeezed all the time. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I know you're in negotiation with those. That's tough. To me, I find it appalling when I think about the guys that start the fire station. The new guys, they start $9 and something an hour. That's nuts, right? But again, the city can only afford so much, and I realize that, and we try to do the best. So I guess I'm trying to say, I think we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit. I think we should maybe take some time to think about, like Mr. Shea talked about, see if it heads in the right direction. The data might say it might not, right? And it hasn't been super, sustaining, but maybe it could head that direction. I think it is heading in that direction. I have to ask the director, do you think, because you're kind of the business person, do you think it's heading in the right direction?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And you're a business, I think, and I trust my wife, I trust your judgment, so I think maybe that's somebody we should think about, Always Ron Kruger, I know, I've known you forever, had your kids forever, and all this and that, I know you really have the, the heart of the city in mind. So, that's my little 2 cents, guy that does vote, I am concerned about Heath. I still like Heath and all that. I still like to go over and see your daughters in class, and all those little late graders and that, and high school kids, and I like to see Austin and all that. I like to kid around with your son once in a while, though he's graduated.
You had my daughter too.
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah. So I got a little stake in it too. So that's just my opinion. Matt. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, and let me, if I can, maybe clear up a misperception that you might have. Although this information is relatively new to the Arts Council Board, although I would share that my definition of success is something that I shared 5 years ago when I was campaigning. Talked about when, and you're right, self-sustainability is a question, but also, as with any, I'm going to slide over here just so I can look you in the eye, I'm sorry, I like to look at people.
That's why I stood up.
As Keith said, does the pool make money? No. Does Hoback Park make money for the city of Heath? No. Do the bike paths make money for the city of Heath? No. That's not what Parks and Rec's offerings are about, okay? They're not about profit centers. They're not about making money, although certainly you don't want to have so much money invested in it while not seeing a return comparable. And I guess, that's kind of where my basis is that this is not, and I'll say this again, this is not about the past 12 months. I know the financial report for 2013 showed that the Arts Council spent $66,000 more last year than it brought in. This is not about the past 12 months from the perspective of impact in the community among the people of Heath.
I just wonder how many people actually, what is the data, how many people that actually go to the different are from Heath? I have no idea. You have any idea? Probably nobody has any idea.
I don't know. I don't know if over the past 12 or 18 months, Jill, I don't know if that's a measurable that you've been tracking. And Carolyn, I don't recall prior to Jill. I don't recall that type of data being tracked. Do you? Was it? From
what is
as far as where people were residing from?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is the trend?
I've been advertising, Lancaster up to Delaware, out to Zanesville, down to Groveport. We have a lot of people that are coming from those areas, from afar, from within the state, out of state. It's definitely a tourism. Now we do have people coming from inside the city, birthday parties, bridal showers, anniversary parties. So we do have people from within Heath.
You know, I want to clear up a misperception too that this, like I said, that this is somehow a hastily thought out thing. I can assure you that that's not the case. Now, it's relatively new information to the Arts Council Board. This group of people I've shared thoughts and concerns and information with even prior to that. Individually, these folks knew that I was going to come talk to the Arts Council Board earlier this month about this topic. I would say that at least over the last 6 or 8 months, if not prior to that, is when, you know, I started to think, okay, Mark, you've always said that success is obtainable. You've always believed that it can be obtained.
I guess
Can
I
it
wonder
still
what
be
your
obtained?
definition of success is.
Well, like I said, and again, like I said when I was campaigning, and like, yeah,
Okay.
and again, not a majority. You're never going to have a majority of the people who, like this particular Parks and Recs offering, or that. I mean, Bob, you know that. But you know, a decent sized, you know. I made my analogy of talking to 100 people. I don't think I'm that far off of what I'm saying. You know, there were, again, this is not a concept that I've come to hastily, and it's not a concept that I haven't come to without a lot of consideration and thought. And I believe that certainly the folks that sit around this table know that that's the type of person that I am. You know, I had approached David months ago about, you know, reviewing this information, and I've had, although his memo was dated the 15th, I can assure you he and I have had conversations well in advance of May 15th. So just so you know, this is not a decision that I have come to on a spur of the moment. It's not a decision sparked by just one particular thing. And frankly, like I said, not to the extent of others in this room, but I also, you know, believed that success was obtainable, worked to try to help achieve that success. I mean, I remember the Pepsi grant. You know, it was such an interesting idea, and we tried it for a month, and you know, we were competing against projects from all over the country. Many of them from you know, major metropolitan centers. I think first month we finished like maybe 12, and to get to $250,000, you had to be in the top 2. And it was June that that was the month that we did it, and we finished, I want to say, about 12, something like that, out of the top 10. And there was consideration about, maybe not doing it in July. And, I had talked to the folks. I said, we've got the Star Spangled Celebration on July 2nd, 4th of July weekend. We may catch some of these other projects flat-footed. Let's try it. Let's give it 1 week in July and see where we're at. When they came out with the results for the first week of July, the Shai House project was #1 in the country. And those people worked hard. And I mean, you talk about everybody involved in that. And I think even some of the council members even, trying to help spread the word and get people, involved in that. And it was a tremendous thing to be able to finish second for that. The question, I guess, becomes, there are, Park, I would say, those who, have supported the project financially and in other ways. If they believe that success is happening or can happen, then I would encourage them to further support the Heath Community Arts Council. To perhaps backfill revenue lost through the bed tax. Again, like I said, this is not a conclusion that I come to lightly, and it's certainly not a conclusion that I take pleasure coming to, but in my mind, having come to this conclusion, then I cannot support the bed tax continuing to go to an entity that, in my opinion, the project has not succeeded, and I don't believe that it can, as it is. So,
I know we have at least one more person. Cletus has patiently been waiting to say something, and so I'm going to let Cletus speak. And I know we're running out of time because I'm guessing in finance there'll be some additional discussion about this, as I know that's on the agenda.
That's a pretty healthy agenda.
Yeah. So, Cletus.
Well, as I'll let you know, I was on that board for 10, 11 years, and I enjoyed it. And looking at it from a business standpoint, that is truly, I think, an asset that the city has. And Mark and I have talked, and I can't really support the requested action he's asking for here, because I feel like that we would lose that building. And now, if I would like to see a plan coming up over a period of 2 to 3 years, or maybe less. But just to cut it off now, I think it would be bad, because I know a lot of young people I see around me, they like to go to Hillback Park because they have children. I personally like to go to Shai House because I don't have the strength anymore to play ball, and my grandkids are fast leaving me, and I think it's a good thing, and I've had a lot of people tell me that. But on the other hand, like I told Mark, I've got a brother, a relation lives in the city. They've never been there, and I can't convince them to go. But I can't convince them to go to church either. But to me, I look at the Shai House as a good asset of the city, and I personally, when I get off council, if it's still there, I'm going to be a part of it again. And that's just all I have to say, because I just feel good about the place, and I'd hate to see it turn to the dogs. And when I say turn to the dogs, I told Mark, if you allow people to go in, or family lease it with kids, they'll destroy it, because it's not the type of a community center that would support something like that. I think the community center that would support that is Hillback Park and Geller Park, where they can run and rumble and tumble, but there you've got a nice asset. And the gentleman that we used when I was on the board for the finances, what was his name, Karen? From over in Columbus. Yeah, Sean Hart, he told me one time, he says, if anything you can ever do for the city is to keep this, from a business standpoint, you have your assets and liabilities, and that maybe it's a little bit of a liability, but I think now the asset's way more than a liability does on the Shea House. And that's why I can't support it.
Okay, and I just wanna say, just to close up, I wanna kind of echo a little bit of what Cleta said and what Mr. Beatty said. I think it's just a little premature. I don't know what the ultimate outcome of this is. I don't know if it can be successful, but I think that, the city hasn't, in my mind, we haven't done enough to outline what our expectations are and what we define as success, and I think we need to do that. I think we need, still have answers about what would happen with the money. I know that's exciting, Mark said, but I'd kinda like to know more and what would happen with the house. And, I'm concerned about, what can be done with the bed tax and all of those things. So for me, I think it's premature.
What can be done from
With
what
the-
standpoint?
Well, I know the county commissioners and the Convention and Visitors Bureau are involved in the bed tax. I'm trying to talk fast, because I know we need to move on, so, but I don't know, what's their role in this decision?
There's their role in
Yeah.
this decision?
Yeah, I mean, do we still get the bed tax if we don't use it in the way that it was? I mean, I think we need to take our time, and we need to have all the answers before we move forward and make a decision that we can't go back to. So, I guess that's just my thoughts.
I gotta say one thing, we gotta have more data. We gotta know how many people go to the pool, how many people use a backpack. We just can't single out one group and say, you've gotta give us this information, or we're gonna shut you down. You know, how much money did the pool lose last year? You know exactly how much the Shea House does. How much did the pool lose? 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, what?
No, was it,
Nobody knows. We got no information. We need data to make decisions, I think.
We do know.
Yeah,
We do know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
No, we know.
yeah, it was, what was it, Keith? Was it around 160?
160.
I was gonna say
We
150 to
didn't see
160.
the debt service last year. Yeah, we did, but up to that point, as we all know, it was making money, we were paying the debt service. So, it's been the last 3 or 4 years that's been tough. Up to that point,
Last year was not a typical year. Everybody remembers the weather we had last year, okay? Wasn't a typical year, so we lost a lot of money. Typically, we've been in the black a few years, a number of years. We're very close to the black, just barely into the red, so.
I think we need data.
I understand.
Are you, I'm ready, I'm adjourning, yes, 7:12, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna run right into finance unless somebody needs a minute break here, because we are tight. Has everybody got an agenda that needs one? Who are we missing here?
Cletus.
Cletus went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna guess, with our very first one on here, we're probably gonna be tabling here. Okay, ordinance 58, 2002 to eliminate hotel, motel bed tax funding to the Heath Community Arts Council. Comments?
That would be my recommendation, to
Table?
table it, because I think that
He wants to table.
we're not in a big rush. We've got till the end of the year, they already have the bed tax for this year, so why do we need to do that now? Let's get all the information before we make a decision, is my thoughts.
My only comment is it needs to be very proactive. Honestly, this report I saw here, I haven't seen anything like this. I don't know, I won't say ever, but it's rare. We need a lot of communication, we need a lot of documentation from you folks as well, okay? Stay open-minded.
What is that you're looking at, Jeff?
This
Oh.
was in my box. Okay?
Oh,
So,
And I think that's part of it, that we outline those expectations.
frankly, your committee is called Parks and Davis Shai for a reason, okay? We get a whole lot of parks information, we don't get much of this kind of stuff, so. Maybe it's because we haven't asked,
Right.
Yeah, we
okay?
thought you
But I'm asking.
to do that.
From here on out.
Why should we have to ask? I've been trying to keep
We
my mouth shut.
probably shouldn't
Why
have,
should
but-
we have to
but-
ask?
But,
We thought that
Ask
you
that
just
to me.
wanted us to run the house and you don't have to worry about it.
Why would,
okay.
I've heard a million times it needs to be treated as a business. And I agree, and the city of Heath is your investor. We've invested in the Heath Community Arts Council in many ways. And when when we ask for information and don't get it. And I agree with you, Jeff, this.
That just follows a long line of times of questioning. It's not,
It's ironic that this
It's not
turned up all of a
now.
sudden, now we finally
Not
get
2
some
years.
information. So, I don't know, I don't know why we have to ask all the questions, or when we ask, we don't get the answers. Unless I've been misfed information from the mayor, I'm sure I haven't, but I've got to
Well,
ask you, I think we have some
Guys,
questions we
you
wanted
have tried
answered.
to ask questions,
Yeah.
and been told, please submit them in writing.
And you went to
Yeah.
the director and asked the questions, and my understanding is that the director didn't have time to get you those answers. Is that wrong, Joe? Because that's wrong. So the mayor's lying to the.
No, I'm sorry, what did you just say?
That you had asked questions from Jill, or couldn't get a return call, or couldn't get the information. Am I wrong?
That's in regards to that meeting. I've not asked Jill any questions, any specific questions outside of when she was here earlier this year.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's what you're referring to, is the conversation that we had, but no, I mean, I think the only questions I've asked of Jill were either here, unless you're talking about, like I said, trying to get that meeting. And maybe that's what you're referring
That is
to,
what I'm
right?
referring
Okay.
to.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm referring to. It concerns me that if we're investing in the program over there and we need information, I think we should have it. And if we can't get that from the director, then we need a new director. So, I mean, if you have a business to run over there, we have a responsibility.
Right, we were begging you guys to come to meetings. The mayor Bob hadn't been there since he resigned.
Nobody's begged me, Ron.
Oh, they've asked him.
The last communication, the last that we had, when Bob and I resigned from the, no, okay, if we want to go there.
Well,
When Bob and I
go around
resigned
this
from the
thing. That's
board
crazy. Let's talk about it.
on the advice of the law director, which we both waited until the transition to the new executive director was complete. I was at the next meeting, and I said that there was nothing in the Arts Council bylaws that specified an ex officio board member. It has never been communicated to me that the bylaws have been changed to allow for such an ex officio board member. And when I was at the board meetings, I mean, I don't recall very many times members of the public being there, just general members of the public. I'm not even sure if I remember members of the media being there usually for board meetings. It's never been communicated to me that the bylaws were altered to allow for an ex officio member. I'm sorry, Brian.
Okay.
No, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
Committee members, are we okay with tabling this at the moment? Cletus? Deb, okay, we're gonna let this simmer for a while. In the interest of time, and in fact, we've got to get a caucus together in the next 5 minutes. Okay, second item, adopt changes to the civil service rules. What do we have here?
Yes, there are,
This has got to be
what goes around.
the abridged version.
Yeah. We had asked the civil service.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We had asked the Civil Service Commission to review some of the civil service rules and make recommendations for changes. Keith in particular had said something about making them similar to those in the city of Newark. They went through that exercise. These are the changes that they outlined. We have a legislative request to adopt their changes. Of course, these changes can be amended by this body. They don't all have to be agreed on by this body. One that you may or may not want to consider is compensation, which is the first one that you see there on the first page in red. My recommendation to you is that you not adopt this change. Reason being is that the city has a number of boards and commissions and that are made up of citizens who volunteer to do it, much in the way that the Civil Service Commission does. I believe that, I know that they're not paid. I believe that the Civil Service Commission should not be paid. Also, as it relates to the compensation for the secretary of $500 a month, I believe, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that if you were to adopt that change, then the secretary of the Civil Service Commission would make more in a year than you do.
No, almost as much. You make $500.
So $500 a month over 12 months would be $6,000.
Yeah,
we don't
you're
make
right. We don't,
$6,000.
that's right, I'm
You
thinking
don't?
we're 457, I don't even know how much I make. We don't.
So,
Yeah, that's
do.
true.
I need to read this over. I mean,
What is this one?
look, this is
Where
720.
did this come from?
Can we,
this came,
amount.
can I make a
this came
recommendation, we
from,
pick this committee up after council meeting this evening? Is there anything that's so pressing?
No.
That needs to be covered in the next 5
No.
minutes? I wanna give you plenty of time to get a caucus together, okay? So why don't we,
can we adjourn it until the end
let's
of the
adjourn
council
this at
meeting?
7:21, we'll
Okay.
pick this up at the end, because the only thing that's constant is, we could have a council meeting in 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? All this other stuff can happen whenever.
Good.
All right, so we will adjourn and re-adjourn after council, okay?
Okay,
Please, Your Honor.
can you do this?
My turn.
Okay. Well, approve the minutes.
I'll excuse Tim.
Okay. And introduction of ordinances, I think everything, you don't have any appointments or anything like that.
No.
And, introduction, 32-14, do we need to waive the second reading of that, Bob?
Sorry, waive that second reading.
On
On the
30,
poll?
Capital
yes,
improvement.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, who's put,
Computer.
I got this.
We need
okay,
to.
yeah,
Say that again.
Computer.
33,
Yes.
Heath, do we need to waive that?
Yes.
Okay.
They're coming out of what? Mine, is that me?
Yeah,
All right, I'll waive the second reading on this then, right, 33?
yeah, 34 now, truck vault storage,
You don't need to waive.
okay, we'll hold that to a second. 35,
Craig, you know if Chief needed that waived, that 300?
No.
Chief, does that matter?
doesn't matter.
Okay, we're hold, we'll help.
Okay, 36, dedicate aerospace convention, I think we should hold that one too.
Is there any rush on that, John? There's no rush on that, on 36, is there?
That's John Brown.
Dedication?
No, there is not.
Okay.
Now, matter of fact, we want to, have a first reading on it and then hold it until construction's actually done.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that's what you had said, I couldn't recall that. Okay, well, any 28, 29 that's on this side, who made